The collective had absorbed 847 species into their empire. The process was always the same: identify a primitive world, demonstrate superiority, offer integration. Those who accepted prospered under collective rule. Those who refused were eliminated as inefficient variables. Earth should have been species number 848. High Coordinator Thrain reviewed the assessment reports with satisfaction. Humans were perfect candidates, fractured into competing nations, constantly warring among themselves, destroying their own environment. They'd likely welcome salvation from their own chaos. The demonstration fleet arrived during what humans called the United Nations General Assembly, convenient, as most of their leaders were already gathered. People of Earth, Thrain's message broadcast globally: you are divided, self-destructive, and technologically infantile. Join the collective, and we will bring you peace, purpose, and advancement. You have one planetary rotation to decide. The collective expected fear, maybe defiance from a few stubborn nations, then inevitable acceptance. They'd seen it 847 times. They hadn't seen humanity's response. Within hours, every nation on Earth did something unprecedented, they agreed. Not with the collective, with each other. Did they just unite? Junior Coordinator Vess asked, studying the data streams. Temporary alliance, Thrain dismissed. They'll fracture again under pressure. The pressure came at dawn. Collective enforcement ships descended on major cities to begin voluntary processing. That's when Thrain realized humans had a very different definition of voluntary. In Tokyo, the processing center was surrounded by citizens who simply stood there. Thousands of them, holding signs, not moving, not attacking. In Moscow, someone convinced the collective's AI that vodka was a mandatory human nutrient, grinding distribution systems to a halt. But the real problem started in the rural areas. Sir, we've lost contact with Enforcement Unit 7, Vess reported. Lost contact? How? They were in a place called Texas. Locals invited them to something called a barbecue, and then, Vess hesitated. And then opened fire with weapons that shouldn't even scratch our armor, but they modified them with armor-piercing rounds they apparently make as a hobby. Thrain's scales rippled with confusion. They attacked with recreational equipment. The incidents multiplied. In Australia, enforcement units were redirected into the outback and abandoned there, because it's funny watching them deal with the spiders. In Canada, someone weaponized politeness, apologizing so profusely that collective officers became psychologically confused about who was actually in charge. Florida, Thrain would have nightmares about Florida, was simply barred from collective jurisdiction after an enforcement unit was chased by an elderly human riding an alligator while wielding a traffic sign. Sir, Vess said quietly, we need to discuss the internet. The primitive information network. They're mocking us, sir. They've created something called memes. Look, this one shows you with the caption, POV, you tried to invade the planet that invented nuclear weapons for warfare, then immediately used them twice and said never again, but kept them anyway just in case. Thrain stared at the image. They'd somehow made him look ridiculous using just text and a poorly edited photograph. 3 weeks into the integration, the collective held an emergency session. They'd subdued warlords, absorbed hive minds, and pacified warrior species. But humans? Humans were something else, and worst of all, he paused, they're making the other species laugh. The VRNN are sharing human memes. The Kesh are asking about this democracy concept. We're losing ideological control. The vote was unanimous. The collective withdrew. As the ships departed, one final message reached Thrain's flagship, GGEZ no re. He didn't understand it. Somehow, that made it worse. Back on Earth, humanity returned to fighting among themselves. But they kept the memes about the collective. Just in case they came back.